We can't make things happen on our own. That we can't create movements or revivals. Only God can do that. But we can be in a prayer posture, open to God's move, and then to be obedient to what He's already told us to do. So what does it look like to reach the nations among us?
Welcome to the Innovative Church Leaders Podcast, where we help you experience and bring renewal to your mission field. Join us and receive free resources at innovativechurchleaders.org. On today's episode of the Innovative Church Leaders Podcast, we have with me Dr. Julio Guarneri. How are you doing, Julio?
Hi there. I'm doing well. How about you, Eric?
Doing well. We just were sharing about some mutual friends that we have. I'm really excited to spend some time with you, hearing really about what you're seeing God doing across the state of Texas. You're the executive director of Texas Baptist. Obviously, I know you're familiar with what's happening in the Baptist world here in Texas, but you've also been overseas recently, the International Baptist. I would just love to hear, maybe off the bat, what are some of the ways you're hearing God at work in our churches in this season?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to join this conversation. And yeah, it's been exciting. I mean, if we kind of start, with the state of Texas, for me to, as I travel around and visit our churches, to see many of our churches that are just excited about being on mission with God. It's those churches that really have a passion for serving their community and for mobilizing people for global missions that at the same time seem to be vibrant in their worship and reaching new people, baptizing. And so every time I go out, whether it's a church of 100 people or a couple thousand people, and I see that kind of a thing going on, I'm excited about that. Our college campuses, we have Baptist student ministry in 137 of our campuses, mostly in Texas. And man, it's exciting to see a generation that is just passionate about following Jesus, that spend time in prayer, that are experiencing spiritual renewal. And that's connected to the church. You know, what we see on campus is like the Baylor campus. It's really a partnership between BSM and local churches. And that's the kind of thing we want to see. We want to see campus ministry very connected to local churches. And so we're thankful for that. And then, coming from being at the Baptist World Alliance in Australia and just seeing of what churches are experiencing in other parts of the world, especially in what we call the majority world. So the global South, Latin America, Africa, Asia. We see not only the growth of the church, but we see a church that is committed to God's mission and mobilizing people. So when we work in other countries as Texas Baptists, we're not trying to necessarily go and do work for them or take our people, but figure out where God is working and just join there and encourage that. So I'm excited about the Baptist World Alliance, Elijah Brown, who leads that, and their vision for just advancing an Acts 2 kind of church that will take the Great Commission, hopefully, to completion. And that's exciting for me. Yeah.
I love it. Well, you mentioned Baylor. Obviously, we're excited to have you sharing at the Beyond Us conference. You can go to beyondusconference.org. In fact, we're giving away free passes. So make sure you're signed up for innovativechurchleaders.org, our newsletter there. Talk a little bit about, this conference, what you hope pastors and church leaders who come will take away from it. I mean, like you said, it's a great example of a college campus and partnering with local churches, in particular the Church Under the Bridge, among others. But yeah, talk a little bit about the Beyond Us conference. What is the message you have that you'll be bringing with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that pastors just need to be in a place where we can be reminded not only of what God has commanded us to do and what we have the privilege of doing, of the current situation. We live in a state that has about 33 million people, and we know that at least half of them are not affiliated with the church, most likely don't know Jesus, not to mention the poverty issues and the social challenges. At the same time, having an incredible amount of diversity in our state. So about 250 languages spoken in our state. Even though there are churches that are growing and that are uh, vibrant, there's a lot of churches that are struggling. I mean, I think something like 80% of our churches are either plateaued or declining. And so our state is one of the fastest growing states in the nation. We are supposed to have 50 million people by the year 2050. Our churches are not just not reaching people at the rate of our growth. And so we need an awakening to that mission and to that reality. Otherwise, Texas will remain an unreached state, an unchurched state at the very least. And so just rediscovering our place in Texas. Texas has always been both a mission field and a mission force. And if we're going to be a strong mission force, we need to reach our state. We need to make sure that people in Texas know Jesus.
Yeah. I grew up in Texas and certainly was involved with Southern Baptist churches my whole life up until about I was 37 years old. But even Texas Baptist men, like I remember my father, anytime there was a disaster, a hurricane, a tornado, these guys would show up and would serve with a smile on their face. They would fix roofs and care for people. I just love kind of that heart of meeting the physical needs and certainly and the spiritual needs. What are some of the other dynamic ways you see the church that is growing, the church that is outreaching, making a difference?
Yeah. So, we talk about, Texas Baptist, we want to see churches that are Great Commandment, Great Commission churches, right? So love God with everything you have, love your neighbor in a tangible way, and then make disciples of all nations. And so to me, those things cannot be separated. So the gospel is holistic, right? It sees the whole person. And so for us, ministry along the border, we have river ministry missionaries who are serving migrants or people on both sides of the border, meeting human needs, whether they're medical or food, or just simply giving dignity to people. So that's a huge way in which we do that. Texans on Mission, I think, is another example of the kind of involvement with this hill country floods that we've had recently, and not only helping in the disaster relief, but now involving the rebuilding, right? So when all of the other organizations pull away, and they do good work, right? But they're focused on relief, on the emergency part. That's great. They're there, but when they're pulling their trailers away, then our Texans on Mission are moving new teams in to help rebuild and to tell people, hey, you're not going to do this by yourself. The church is here, which ultimately means God's presence is here. And so I think those are incredible ways in which we can demonstrate the love of God, both on the border, in disaster situations, and with students on campuses.
Yeah, so good. Well, I know for many years you've been a pastor in McAllen. You've been on the front lines along with so many of those listening. What are some of the ways you'd want to encourage pastors, staff, key volunteers, not only about what you see God doing now, but when it comes to being faithful in the long term, what are some of the ways you think it'd be great to encourage these pastors?
Yeah, I think making a commitment as leaders to be about the kingdom of God, right? So as local churches, our gathering on Sundays and what we do midweek should be not just to keep us safe and cozy and spiritually nurtured, to be fed. It ought to be the headquarters for encouraging us and equipping us so that we could be on mission, so that we could be about kingdom work. And I think that's for some, unfortunately, that's a paradigm shift, because often we've developed this idea of being the church first. And then if we have time and energy left, then we're about the kingdom, as if the kingdom were a secondary reality. And when we look at the Gospels, Jesus talks about the kingdom more than he does about the church. And the church is but it is an instrument that's part of the kingdom. And so our churches, I think, our church people should be invited to discover what that means in their daily lives, in their own professions, helping people discover that whether you're a school teacher or an architect or an engineer or someone that works for the city, that you have a part in living out the kingdom life where you are. And so I think that's That's what's going to make the difference in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, that key phrase, long run, this is a
Yeah,
long strategy. God is
yeah,
playing the long game, you know, and our faithfulness, just with what's right in front of us of advancing his kingdom, is making a bigger difference than we could imagine.
yeah,
What are
for
some of the
sure.
things you hope to see God do in and through the organization you lead, but also the church at large?
Yeah. So, my prayer is that we would experience renewal as churches, that we would rediscover what it means to be the people of God, and that in that, we would carry out the Great Commission. It's I think it's in 2033 that much of the global church will celebrate the 2000th anniversary of that Great Commission. And so, what does it look like to come to a place where the global church has come together to pray? Because we understand we can't make things happen on our own. That we can't create movements or revivals. Only God can do that. But we can posture. We can be in a prayer posture, open to God's move. So I wanted us to be in that posture, and then to be obedient to what He's already told us to do. So, what does it look like to reach the nations among us? What does He look like? Currently Texas Baptist worship in 80 different languages in Texas, any given weekend. That's great. We celebrate that. We're a very diverse ethnically convention. Out of the 5,300 churches, about 1,200 are Hispanic, 700 are African American, 350 churches speak those 80 languages that I just
Wow.
talked about. And so we celebrate that, but we also realize, if there are 250 languages spoken in Texas, we have a long ways to go. So what does it look like to reach the nations that have come to us in a loving and redemptive way? And then what does it look like then to be instruments and to partner with the church, with the global church? Not that we as Westerners would have this colonization mindset, but that we as God's people would recognize what our brothers and sisters are doing in other parts of the world and would come alongside them and champion them. And so for me, if we can do that, we still have 3,000 people groups in the world that do not have the Bible in their own language. We can do this with technology and with the number of Christians and the number of churches that we have. If everybody does something financially, adopting a people group, we can get this done. There's no reason why people shouldn't have the Bible in their heart language today. So those are the kinds of things that I think we would look forward to celebrating.
I think it's beautiful. Well, you can read more about Dr. Guarneri's work at texasbaptist.org. Thank you so much. Keep up the amazing work, and God bless.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and God bless you and continue to use you.
Thanks for listening to the Innovative Church Leaders Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share as we bring spirit-led innovation, reach new people, and make disciples who make disciples. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter at innovativechurchleaders.org for free resources and an opportunity to join a cohort with Dr. N.T. Wright.